Oh my gosh, guys. Hi. Oh my god, I can't stop. Okay. Hi guys, Yuki here with Seduce Me to the Demon War demo. I've been staying up, well, not really since it's like 10, but I've been waiting since 5 or 6 this afternoon, watching stream and waiting for the demo to come out, and it's out! I'm so hyped, Alright. So, because I was looking at what they were saying in the demo, this is Damien. I think that's Matthew, Sam, James, Eric. But obviously, we're going with Damien. Right? Okay. Alright. I can't stop shaking. So excited. Alright. And the Kickstarter's up, and they've already raised, let's see, let me check, over $7,000, and that is like crazy, and I am going to hopefully be backing it up like maybe in a week because I'm broke right now, but that's not going to stop me from backing at least $10 or more. But anyways, alright, let's get on with this. I told him I had no regrets. I told Damien that I did not regret for 1 second that I made a deal with Diana to make him human. I stood steadfast and knew what I was doing. But I still don't like the choice I had made. Something in my gut didn't feel right about what I did to Damien. Yes, I knew that Diana wouldn't have raped him, but what if she had? What if I gave her permission to do so and I didn't even know it? That would make me feel terrible. What if he didn't want to go through with it and Diana really did sleep with him anyway? I was mortified at the choice, but I just wanted him to be happy. Every time he said my name made me feel so happy. Every time he held me or kissed me was a moment I carved into my memory forever to cherish. I loved him, and I wanted him to be truly happy. Damien reassured me that Diana didn't do anything to him, but I couldn't not help but imagine it and even dream of it. Oh, come on.
So, bastard son, do you truly wish to become human? You know very well that I am capable of making that happen.
Alright, I should have put a warning before, but I'll probably do it once I edit this video about this as being PG-16, so there are a lot of, what's the word? I guess themes here that could possibly be triggering. So gotta make sure not to let you guys know. That way, I don't want anybody. Okay. And alright.
I will not betray her trust.
What she doesn't know won't hurt her. Besides, don't you want to be human so you can be with her and not put her in any danger?
I thought we were done with Diana, but I guess not.
Stop it!
I couldn't stop illusions of what Diana and Damien could have done from appearing in my dreams, like a scene doomed to repeat over and over. Diana, shrouded in shadow, would loom over Damien and show herself as the evil woman she truly was. Damien, however, would struggle, fight to get away from her. I didn't want to see this, but I was forced to watch the scene play out.
Stop it. What makes you think you're in a position to say no to me?
Ugh.
I won't do it, Diana. You can't make me do this.
Oh, can't I? Your precious little human isn't here to save you.
I tried to scream, to protest, and prove Diana wrong, but I knew that I wasn't there. I was merely a bystander to a dream I could not stop. I really do like the new little, I don't know what this thing is called, but that thing where the text box, the text box is all cool. I was forced to witness Diana chain Damien up to a black bed and touching him in the most sensual but unwanted ways possible, her nails and tongue running along his skin, made both him and me flinch and whimper in disgust.
Stop it!
Oh man, no! Why are you doing this to me? Ah! Well, you're not doing this to me, but you're doing this to him, and I already feel little pinpricks.
What? Are you not enjoying yourself? You're an incubus, and even more than that, a man. Surely you can enjoy this treat in exchange for your precious humanity.
This was wrong. This was sick and beyond wrong. I felt like I was outside the small bubble Damien and Diana were in, and I was beating against the wall, trying to get in and stop her, but I couldn't break through. Each movement Diana made grew more and more sexual, like a predator playing with its prey. Damien struggled, thrashing about and fighting back against the chains that held him down, trying to break free. I prayed that he would. I screamed and hoped that he would be released from this. However, Diana glared and snapped her fingers, forcing him to gasp and his eyes to glow cold. He began to quake, as if he was dying. If he was dying and starved like an animal, and glared angry daggers at Diana, who only laughed. What sent deadly shivers down my spine was Diana was looking over at me, as if she knew I was watching.
Remember, dear, you made this decision.
Diana chuckled before leaning close to Damien's face, looking over his mouth and straddling his hips.
She was a cute little diversion. But now it's time to have some real fun.
As Damien began to scream, I suddenly awoke from my nightmare, mentally unable to mentally unable to take from being trapped inside of it anymore.
Huh?
Damien! I'm so sorry. But I like the art style. Beside me, I heard and felt Damien rise out of bed in response to me waking. I looked over at him, seeing him quickly rub his eyes and look at me with worry.
Hey, what's wrong?
I knew he couldn't read my mind anymore, so he wouldn't have known what I had seen. I still couldn't help but need to embrace him from the dream I had. Grabbing Damien's arms gently, I began to whimper.
Huh? Hey, come here.
Damien gently wrapped his arms around my form and hugged me to him, petting my back. I let out a weak mewl, shutting my eyes, trying not to cry. Damien gently kissed over my head, trying to calm me down.
Everything's okay. It was just a nightmare. I'm right here.
His voice helped me slowly start to relax, knowing that what he said was true. It was a nightmare, not real. I couldn't shake all this sadness from my mind, but I calmed down enough to not let it control me anymore. Damien gently rocked me, his arms wrapped around my body lovingly. As he softly whispered my name, my mind simply melted into a peaceful hum. Do-do-do, Yuki! Everything was okay now. Everything was fine. I looked up at Damien and rubbed my eyes as he loosened his embrace around me. I'm sorry. I just can't stop thinking about the deal I made with Diana.
I told you before that it was fine. Honestly, it's nothing to worry about.
Damien gently kissed my forehead before pressing his to mine, nuzzling me softly. He stared deep in my eyes with a loving smile, one that made my heart ooze in happiness despite my worry.
I cannot be any happier than I am now. I'm marrying the woman of my dreams as a human, an actual human. I owe everything to you.
Damien. I rubbed my nose against Damien's, closing my eyes and wrapping my arms around his neck. I knew he was being sincere and was truly happy. I had to get over my fears and deal with it. He was a human now, and we were going to be married soon. My heart truly couldn't believe it. I was going to marry Damien, and we'd lived happily ever after together. It was so good I couldn't almost believe the truth of it. However, I was always reminded of the reality of it every time Damien held me in his arms. Damien smiled before kissing my head and patting the bed behind him.
Come on. Let's go back to sleep. I'll be right here if another nightmare appears.
Okay. I nodded and slowly fell back onto the mattress, cuddling up to Damien as he lay beside me. If the nightmare came back, Damien would be in my arms, reminding me it was all fake and just my imagination. Everything would be alright. The night quickly passed by and the morning sun peeked through my window drapes, and landed perfectly over my eyes, waking me up. I stretched and yawned, not wanting to get up just yet. However, the emptiness of the bed next to me made my eyes open wide. Finding no Damien beside me. Damien? I sat up and looked around the room after rubbing the sleep from my eyes. Damien was nowhere in the room, which confused me. Where was he? Making breakfast downstairs, probably.
Oh, good morning.
I looked over at the door to see Damien holding a tray of breakfast with 2 plates full of delicious food. See, I told you. In a vase behind my breakfast plate were 2 beautifully bloomed white roses, which made a soft smile grow on my face. Morning. Is that for us?
Yeah. I figured why not have breakfast in bed?
You were so sweet. Thank you. And sorry if my voice sounds all weird. It's like, I don't know if I'm in the process of having a cold or something, but my voice is kind of hoarse right now. Damien smiled and sat beside me, placing the tray over both of our laps. The smell was practically intoxicating in the best ways possible. Before we began to eat, however, Damien picked up the TV remote from the nightstand beside me.
James's big toy reveal is today. Do you mind if we watch it?
I shook my head, eager to see it all as well. James had become the CEO of the Anderson Toys Company, so I was really curious to see how he was doing and how the company was holding up. Apparently, it was rising higher and higher up in the top business rankings and soon had become one of the top 500 businesses internationally. I was proud of James, but I was more happy to see that Damien seemed to be his #1 fan. He was always giddy whenever he talked about all of his brother's accomplishments. It was adorable. Yeah, that's really cute. Well, actually, I wonder what Damien's doing. Like, what kind of job is he? Or does he have? Or is he... I don't remember if it was said in this epilogue. I guess we'll just have to find out. Damien grinned before turning on the TV and changed the channel to the local news station. It was one of the best news stations out there, and I was not being biased. Anyone who claimed to love Chicago knew it.
Alright, so here we have an interesting story to tell. The Anderson Toys Company, an internationally famous toy business, has just recently announced a new line of toys in development. According to the CEO, the line is said to focus on fantasy. Let's take a look at the public announcement.
Ooh.
I am more than happy to show off our new line, Fantasy Kingdom, for you all this morning. These toys will not only provide friendship and fun for children around the world, but will help inspire imaginations and let creative minds grow.
Here we go. Sorry, my headphones are kind of broken, but I have to make do for now. I could not help but squeal at what I saw on the TV. All lined up in a row were adorable cartoon-like stuffed fantasy dolls glimmering in the broadcasting lights of the TV station. There were knights, royalty, and creatures of all kinds. Some not even truly fantasy. Damien, however, laughed quietly at the sight. Huh? What? They're all really cute!
They are! Only a couple of them are real, though.
Huh? Really? My jaw dropped. Some of the creatures that were represented were actually real. I knew demons and devils existed, but there were more than them? My mind began to imagine all of the creatures on the screen being potentially real. Damien nodded and pointed to the TV.
Vampires are real, but they don't look like that. They look like humans.
No way! I could not believe it. There was no way vampires existed. Damien, however, nodded with a reassuring grin.
I promise it's true. Werewolves used to exist too, though they were killed off by the vampires long ago.
Aw, dang.
Let's see.
I was Team Jacob. I looked to the TV to see the vampire doll and a werewolf plush sitting next to each other, being simply cute and stereotypical of what most people imagine them to look like. Damien then pointed to the screen again.
There, the angel toy? Angels are real too, only they don't look like that.
I looked over to see a beautiful golden-haired doll of an angel. They really didn't look like that? I tilted my head at Damien. We all know because Diana told us, but in this route we know nothing. So, yeah. How do they look like if they're not like that?
Well, they look,
Damien rubbed his chin, unsure of how to reply. I could tell he was being serious and wasn't lying about them looking different. They seemed to be hard to describe. Damien then shook his head.
They look like old statues. It's really hard to say without drawing it out or something.
Oh. I really wasn't in the mood to get up and grab paper and a pencil, so I shrugged and let it go for the moment. Damien and I looked back to the TV, seeing the entire line pass by the camera, showing what toys were available. I'm surprised he didn't make a demon toy, like a cat girl or something.
I don't think many people would understand it, though it would be cool to have a demon doll.
I guess you're right. They are for kids after all. I looked to Damien as he became absorbed in the line of toys. I couldn't help but smile at how intrigued he was. It made me curious. Hey Damien, did you ever have toys as a kid? No, because he lived a horrible childhood. Oh. Damien looked at me in surprise before shaking his head with a slight grimace.
No, I didn't. Matthew made some for me sometimes, but they were always
no! I frowned. I was sorry for asking, but Damien shook his head again and smiled.
However, when we came to the human world, I actually got one. It was a stuffed kitten. I didn't do anything, but it was fluffy and cute.
I don't even know if I'm gonna get past this. Why are you so cute? My poor, adorable, tortured soul. Damien rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment.
Must be dumb, huh?
No!
A grown man
No!
with a cute toy like that?
No, it's adorable. No way, it's cute. Damien stared in shock at me, but I was being serious. It didn't matter that Damien was a man. Cute toys were cute for a reason, and it was okay to think so. Having cute toys is not a bad thing at all. That's what some toys are meant to be. Cute. It doesn't matter who has them or how old you are. Cute is cute. I used to have a stuffed bear collection. I had a huge one. That used to be like at least 3 feet tall. Well, I'm probably exaggerating, but it was pretty big. And now I don't. I had to give them away, and now I'm only left with like maybe 2 stuffed animals. A little tiny one I got for my birthday, and the other one I bought for myself on Amazon for a cosplay. Oh wait, no, I lied. I have a 3rd one that I had since like birth. Somewhere around here. Maybe someday I'll go back to collecting, but not now. It was just a fact to me. However, Damien couldn't help but chuckle softly before bringing one hand to my head and petting over my hair.
You are so adorable, you know that?
No, you're adorable. Huh? I blushed and looked down at the breakfast tray in front of us. I wasn't that cute. I felt myself rub the back of my neck in embarrassment. Shush! That made Damien laugh and kiss my cheek, forcing a gasp to come out of me. I looked at Damien as he smiled a playful grin at me.
It's true.
We both turned back to the TV and listened as James explained each toy in detail. I looked over to Damien to see him practically enthralled with the sight of his brother presenting his line. I gently nudged him, making him look back to me. Jeez, you're making me jealous. It's like James is enthralling you through the TV to buy his toys. Maybe that's what he's doing. I, of course, was joking. Damien was very happy for his brothers, especially James. That's so cute that he looks up to all of his brothers. With a raised eyebrow, Damien gently removed the tray from our laps, placing it on his nightstand before crawling over my body and making me lay back. Oh boy. I don't think there's okay, everybody get ready. Mostly me. Okay. I stared up at him in surprise as he gave me a seductive smirk.
And what if I was enthralled by you?
Uh, I was speechless. Damien was full of surprises, even as a human. He didn't have the ability to read my mind, but he knew exactly what to say to make me squirm. How was he this good? He was human now. Damien chuckled before leaning down and kissing me. Despite him not being a demon anymore, his kisses were always so magical. Each time, they each took my breath away. Each time his lips touched mine. I loved them. I wrapped my arms around him and deepened the kiss between us, forgetting about what was going on with the toy line. All I could think... Wait, I hope this is working. I think it's working. Okay, good. Let me put on the headphones. It was just really silent. All I could think about was Damien's kiss. It was sweet and passionate, eager to make my body quiver underneath the one kissing me. However, the sound of our stomachs rumbling in sync forced us to break away from the kiss and look down at our touching bellies.
Maybe we should eat a bit before we continue this, huh?
I gotta make sure this works. Unless I broke my thing. In which case, I'm going just to have to... I guess I'm just gonna have to go without for now. Even though it's gonna get awkward. Because it's not working. Good idea. I'm sorry, headphones, you're dead. As much as I wanted to keep making out with Damien, I knew my stomach would keep interrupting us, and so would his unless we ate. We ate the delicious breakfast Damien made while watching the rest of the news. It was a nice segment, and Matthew even appeared to help during James's presentation. Soon we were flipping channels and watching random shows. The day passed by lazily. We barely left the bedroom because we just didn't want to do anything. It was rather relaxing, surprisingly. I knew we had to work on the wedding arrangements eventually, but today was not the day for that. We needed a day to ourselves, to remind each other that we were going to be together for a long time. It wasn't long before we found ourselves cuddling into each other's arms, taking a mid-afternoon nap. It was a sweet and peaceful drowsiness that lured both of us to close our eyes together. The darkness of my mind invited me to stay a while, and I gladly accepted its invitation. It felt nice, and I was enjoying the rest of it gave my body. However, I soon saw that I was not alone in the dark. Oh God! But... Please work. Headphones. I beg you. Okay, it's working. Damien slowly appeared before me and took my hand, kissing it gently. I felt myself shudder, but it wasn't his nude form or his kiss that surprised me. It was his eyes. My mind recognized those eyes, shivers shooting up my body from the sight. Instead of the loving and soft blue and purple of his eyes usually were, they were a deep gold. They bore into my soul as Damien continued to keep his lips on my hand. Damien? No, don't make... No. As Damien smirked against my skin, my body began to feel hot, making me curl into my body. I tried to pull my hand away from him, but he held it firmly, keeping his lips against my skin over my knuckles. No! I recognized this feeling. He was enthralling me. Why was he doing this to me in my dream? Why was this happening? We continued to float in the darkness, his enthrallment invading my body as he held my hand to him still. I had to make him let go. I had to. Stop! I finally was able to pull my hand away, and I held it close to my chest. Damien stared in shock before something dark covered my eyes. No!
Look out!
Diana? Huh? From out of nowhere, Diana's voice rang through the air. followed by the sounds of an intense battle. I looked around the darkness, unsure what was going on, but something did not feel right. As I stood lost in the dark, I felt a heavy weight upon my back, forcing me down. It was as if a large boulder was pressing down on me, wanting to crush me beneath its weight. I fought against it, gritting my teeth as I struggled. A large grunt echoed over me, forcing me to look up and see Diana pushing at the boulder to get it off of me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Why would Diana ever help me? Quickly, we both forced it off my body, and soon I found myself looking into the great hall of the Incubi's old castle in the Abyssal Plains. The interior was as regal as I remembered. Behind me was a broken-down entrance where I assumed the boulder had originated from. However, Diana and I were not alone.
Is she alright?
I wouldn't worry about her, you mistake!
I hate you, Demon Lord. I stared as the Demon Lord and Damien stood squared off with each other. And the Demon... You know what I just realized? This has nothing to do with what's going on right now, but there is facts being said on Tumblr, and it said that demons could change their forms at will, and change other people's forms at will, but it takes more effort or something. So there's a chance that that Damien we saw was not actually Damien. Okay. So that could be foreshadowing. Okay, I'm just gonna keep that in the back burner for now. I stared at the Demon Lord and Damien stood squared off with each other. In the Demon Lord's hand was a large chain covered with dried blood, and my stomach churned at the sight.
She will never leave this world alive as long as I live!
I looked at Damien, then back at the Demon Lord. What was going on? Why was Diana here? Why was I here? As the Demon Lord whipped his chain at Damien, Diana shot out a blast of purple energy, forcing it to ricochet away. Diana stepped in front of me and Damien, glaring hard at the Demon Lord and preparing another spell in her hand.
Go with her. I'll deal with this once and for all.
If I'm going to fall here, all of you will fall with me!
The Demon Lord, with a crazed grin, pointed his hand towards the ceiling and let an angry howl, causing tremors and quakes to run through the room. Diana shot her hands upward and formed a purple barrier around our bodies, but she winced with each stone that fell and slammed into the barrier.
I can't hold it!
This castle will be your grave!
My instinct was to reach out and hold on to Damien, but before I could move, Before I could move, he grabbed my face and kissed me roughly. I stared at him, wondering what he was doing, but I kissed him back and dug my fingers into his shoulders. Was this dream going to end with us dying? As Damien pulled away, I saw tears begin to form in his eyes. I stared as he gently pulled... No! Don't you dare sacrifice yourself! Don't! No! No! I stared as he gently pulled away from me and ran outside of Diana's barrier at the Demon Lord, picking up a fallen sword from the ground. With a courageous shout, Damien slashed at the Demon Lord, forcing him to quickly jump backwards towards the throne.
Keep her safe!
What?
No!
Are you insane? You're powerless against him!
You're faster than me as a demon. I won't be able to get out of here fast enough for us both to survive.
No! Damien? I wasn't sure what was happening, but I didn't like what I was seeing. Why was Damien telling Diana to keep me safe? I watched as Damien looked to Diana with an affirmative glare and nod. Before I could question it, Diana ducked down and threw me over her shoulder. How she managed to be strong enough to perform such a feat was beyond me, but I was too thrown off to care.
You will not be forgotten!
No!
Just go!
No! I reached out to Damien, losing track of what was happening as Diana began to run away from him and the Demon Lord faster than a speeding car. Damien! Damien!
I love you.
I watched as the tears run down Damien's cheeks as he reached back for me, but he remained where he stood. As Diana ran with me over her shoulder, The ceiling began to crumble within the hall, stone and glass falling all around the demon lord and Damien. The world around me began to go in slow motion, as I kept reaching out to Damien, struggling in Diana's arms as she ran. Why was this happening? I could only watch as the demon lord approached Damien and quickly wrapped the chain around his neck, pulling him into the air and hanging him with it like an executioner's noose. Damien tried to place his feet on the demon lord while his fingers clawed at the chains, trying to find some purchase. I hate you! I hate this! As he managed to get his feet around the demon lord's neck, a large avalanche of stone and glass fell over their bodies, hiding them from sight. I couldn't be sure, but it looked as if they had been crushed. No! The world around me broke apart as I began to scream in agony at what I was forced to witness. I couldn't have been real. I didn't want it to be real. I let the darkness of my dreams envelop me as I mentally repeated over and over that this was not real. Once again I was floating in darkness, curled into myself in overwhelming sadness. What was this happening? What was I being forced to see nightmare after nightmare? I dug my nails into my arms, wanting to wake up already. Please let me wake up. Please! As I felt my body begin to fall, I let go of my arms and tried to reach for something to stop my rapid descent. Ah! Faster and faster I felt my body tumble and fall through the dark into an unknown oblivion. I tried to grasp at anything to catch me, but to stop me. I eventually woke up, holding on to Damien as I refocused my vision. I was back in my room. I had landed and awoken before I felt the impact, or perhaps the impact woke me up. My grip on his shirt woke Damien from his sleep, gasping and looking to me.
Gah! What happened? What's wrong?
Damien! I instinctively wrapped my arms around him, needing to feel him physically. It wasn't enough to see or hear him, but the feeling of his body being in my arms reassured my mind that he was okay, and that he was here with me, alive. Damien looked at me and wrapped his arms around me, letting out a small sigh and nuzzling me softly.
Another nightmare?
I could only nod against his shoulder. I was quivering in his arms, but I was thankful for everything was okay. My dream was just that, a dream. I sighed and kissed his cheek softly, silently apologizing. Damien held me close for such a long time, understanding my need to simply feel him. He didn't pull away, nor did he speak. He simply held me and gently nuzzled me to help me fully come down from my fear. I felt his hand gently pet my hair, aiding my shift from sadness to a relaxing calm. Everything was fine. Everything was okay. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep getting nightmares.
You can't control your dreams.
You said that before. My memories flashed back to the first time he said that to me. It was the day right after we met. He had saved me from my nightmare of Malix. I let a smile cross my cheeks as I looked up at Damien. You told me that when we first met. Damien gently pulled away and smiled at me, kissing my cheek.
I did, didn't I? You remember that?
Of course, I remember everything, Damien. I nodded. I never wanted to forget how we had met. He and his brothers came to the human world and arrived at my house, where I got to be with them and learn about them. At the same time, I was able to become close to Damien and fall in love with him. Yes, there were some bumps along the way, but we were able to get through them. We even were able to give Damien something he desperately wanted. To be human. Damien gently caressed my cheek, inviting me to nuzzle into his palm, and he smiled down at me as he laid his forehead against mine.
No matter what comes our way, I promise to protect you and love you for the rest of my life.
I don't want you to protect me. I want you to be safe. You'll never leave me? Damien shook his head and I believed him. His simple smile was enough for me to understand that he was telling the absolute truth. He wouldn't leave me, and I would never leave him. I nuzzled my nose to his, looking up into his beautiful eyes. You don't regret not being a demon anymore? He shook his head again. I knew he was beyond happy to be human, but the nightmares made me worry over and over without relenting. I knew I was worrying about over nothing. But more than anything else, I wanted Damien to be happy. I couldn't help but worry. I slowly tilted my head and captured his lips with mine, kissing him ever so softly. He returned my kiss, his arms tightening around my body. My worry slowly began to melt and drift away as he held me. I could feel my body slowly draw closer to Damien's, craving more of his touch. My fingers gently traveled up to his shoulders and ran through his hair, brushing through the strands lovingly. He shivered at my touch, making me tremble in response. The thing was, I had just woken up from a nightmare. Was it right to really feel like this right now? My mind questioned my body's intentions, and my body ignored every logical reason my mind had to put a stop to My mind questioned my body's intentions, and my body ignored every logical reason my mind had to put a stop to the situation. I had to listen to one or the other. Saving. This is so cute. Okay, I'm gonna put it here. I don't know. I would usually go for this route, but I don't know if that's the right or wrong choice. You know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go with it. Remember, PG-16. Children. What's it? Viewer discretion is advised. Something in my body was calling for Damien and didn't care what I had just witnessed. I was attracted to him and I needed more of him. It's gonna be awkward for me. It was crazy, but I didn't care. I was in love and also deep in lust. I slowly dragged my hands down and began to undo his shirt, needing to feel his bare chest with my fingers. In response, Damien dipped his hands under my shirt and up my back, and I shivered in delight as they reached my spine. I couldn't help but moan against his lips at his touch, loving how his fingers teasingly and lovingly ran down my back. As his chest was bare to me, I ran my fingertips over his toned skin as I arched my back towards him. Damien smirked slightly against my lips as he reached farther down my shirt, discovering that I wasn't wearing a bra, and feeling my bare skin where the clasp would be. I opened my eyes, watching him stare down at me with a loving yet lust-filled gaze. Just his stare made me feel weak in his arms and made me moan once again, against his lips, and soon into his arms. Damien moved his hands away so that he could fully remove his shirt from his body before helping me out of mine, pulling away from the kiss to do so. I whimpered at the loss, but I knew what had to be done. As Damien gathered me back into his arms, I wrapped my arms around his neck, needing to be close to him. He became much more daring whenever we were about to make love. It was almost like a complete character change whenever his passion took over. He knew what he was doing, and he knew exactly where to hold me to make me melt against him. Damien slowly ran his hands down my back and slipped them under the hem of my pants and panties, gripping to my bare rear and massaging each cheek oh so lovingly. I pulled away from his kiss and moaned out into the air between us, gripping his shoulders at the feeling. Okay, it wasn't helping that the heat and need in my core were flaring to have him take me as he groped my ass and made my nerves jump and shake in desire. I looked at Damien with half-lidded eyes, feeling my desire increase with each press of his fingers and palms. He had a small smirk on his lips, and I licked my own at the sight. Damien gently leaned in and nipped at my mouth, biting my lower lip and sending pleasurable waves down my body and into my already tightening core. As he released it, he leaned his forehead against mine, staring deep into my eyes.
Are you sure you want to do this? I don't think I'll be able to stop myself if we continue.
Man, I'm feeling... okay, let's get up. Let's just keep going, I guess. I didn't want to hear it. I grabbed his head and pulled him back into a passionate kiss, needing to stop him from suggesting that we stop. I didn't want to stop. I wanted him. Damien took the hint and kissed me back just as deeply. He dug his fingers into my skin, making me arc my back further and grind against him in knees. I was drowning in desire and I needed him immediately. Not fast enough. He had removed the remainder of our clothes from our bodies and we were making sweet and passionate love, our breaths and moans echoing through the room shamelessly and relentlessly. Each word we let out became a declaration of love, of pleasure, of eternal bliss between us as we rocked on the mattress passionately. My fingers danced and dragged themselves along his skin, leaving lovely red marks in their wake. We didn't need... What? We didn't need demon enthrallment to feel immense pleasure between us. We made each other feel perfect as humans, and that was all that mattered when we held each other. Soon our moans became harder and louder, driving alongside our pleasures and ecstasy. My fingernails began to dig into his skin and onto the bedsheets as I began to apex and rush over my highest point. As I finally passed through the peaks of pleasure, so did he, and we were both blissful and warm. We slowly melted into the afterglow of our sex and cuddled with each other, not wanting to lose the warmth between our bodies. Our sex was part of how we expressed our love to each other, and we didn't want to lose any bit of it. Damien cradled me in his arms and kissed my forehead before kissing me on the lips gently.
I am yours. Forever.
And I am yours. It wasn't long before I closed my eyes and fell into deep sleep again. This time, I was able to float into blissful darkness, uninterrupted. Soon days went by, passing forward in an almost hyperdrive until a couple of days before the wedding. Damien and I worked hard after our rest day to make everything perfect, and we were positive that nothing could go wrong. The boys picked him up, leaving me alone to get into my wedding dress and wait for my limo to drive me to the wedding hall. I was nervous that I needed to prep everything on my own without interruption. I got into my dress, finished getting ready, and wound up staring at myself in the mirror in awe. I was in my dream wedding gown, looking as I had always imagined I'd look like getting married. The one thing that made it special was that I was marrying. I stopped myself. Damien wasn't a demon. He was human.
Aren't you so proud of yourself?
Diana, stop it. Leave me alone. Huh? I looked around, suddenly hearing Diana's voice in the air. Just hearing her ask that one question filled the air with dark and menacing tension. However, it was impossible. How was she here? Diana? Where are you?
You didn't answer my question.
Leave me alone! Why should I? Show yourself! As I looked at the mirror, I gasped. Instead of my reflection, I saw a dark shadow with gold eyes staring at me. I would know those red eyes anywhere. But they're gold. Diana.
How does it feel to be inches away from marrying the man of your dreams?
Like I said, see that glow? Illusion? Okay. Why should I tell you anything? Why are you here?
A frisky bridezilla, aren't you?
No. Answer me!
Tell me first, how do you feel now that Damien's no longer who he was?
What?
Remember, he was born a demon, and you took that away from him. Well, I did anyway, at your request, of course.
He wanted to be human! It was insane. Why was I arguing with her when she was just a shadow in the mirror? Diana let out a dark laugh.
You don't even know who you're marrying, do you? Damien, the human who is a demon. What's next? Will he demand to be a woman instead? He could easily be one. Oh, wait. He can't because he no longer has the ability to do so himself.
Shut up, Diana. What do you care? He can do whatever he wants.
But do you even know what he wants? I want to go to the human world. I want to be human. Tell me, can you give him everything he wants? I want my mother back.
No, you, how dare
That I
you?
was ever a demon. I want to forget I was even born.
How dare you? Throwdown's gonna happen. Stop it! I couldn't take it any longer. I grabbed the lamp in my nightstand and lifted it, ready to smash the mirrors to pieces. However, as I looked back at the mirror, it was only showing my reflection. Diana was gone. We're going crazy.
I knew it! I knew it! That girl has demon magic!
What the?
Then quit talking and let's take her!
This wasn't how it was in the other sneak peek in the other one. We were at the cemetery saying our stuff to Grandpa and it was raining and then it wasn't.
The Demon Lord will be so pleased.
Who? Before I could turn to search for the voices, I felt hands grab hold of my feet and I looked down and lifted my dress. 2 pairs of evil-looking hands had taken hold of my ankles, reaching through a dark and red and purple pentagram. I shrieked, trying to pull my legs away, but I couldn't stop them as they swiftly pulled me into the ground. I was pulled deeper and deeper into the darkness. I was no longer... Oh, shoot. I will go back to that. But I can't. I reached and clawed at the dark, trying to find something to grab onto. I tried to pull my legs away from the hands that were pulling them, but I couldn't pull free. What was going on? What was this happening? Someone help me! As if someone had heard my screams, I suddenly felt the hands let go and disappear, leaving me to float in the darkness they left me in. I shut my eyes. Please let this be a dream. Please let this be a dream! I finally felt a surface under my feet, and I collapsed onto it, my body curling in on itself from the experience I had. I didn't dare tear my eyes away from my lap, not ready to get up just yet. The voice I heard, however, made my heart stop.
You! What are you doing here?
I looked up, finally having the courage to take in my surroundings. My heart stopped beating for a moment, seizing in my chest. Whoa! I looked up to see 5 figures, strangers, monsters, beings that I didn't recognize. They all looked down at me in surprise, as if I had dropped in a very bad time. That's Diana. I don't know these people. These are new characters, but I forgot to read up on their names. One man looked like an orc from a fantasy game without the tusks. He had a broken horns and very frightening aura around him as he stared at me. The other male was lanky in comparison. Him? Looks kinda old. More human-like, but I could almost feel power emanating from him regardless. One of the women who was staring at me had rabbit ears. They twitched on top of her head as she looked at me and gripped her staff. She seemed harmless. Yet she had animal ears. The one creature I couldn't discern the sex of seemed more excited to see me than surprised. What freaked me out about them was that they had wings sticking out from their back and they were floating. The last woman, however, seemed to set off alarms in my head as I looked at her surprised face. Her hair, her eyes. Diana? Ooh, nice hideout. As she stared, the woman turned her body towards me in recognition to the name I had called her. It was her.
What are you doing here?
Diana walked towards me and stared down at me. It was odd. She didn't look like a human, yet I wasn't afraid of her demon form as it towered over me. I was more in shock at what was going on. Before Diana could speak further, most likely to repeat herself, a figure quickly stepped up and bowed to her, kneeling beside her. Is that her servant guy?
My lady, please forgive me. I felt something moving between our worlds and assumed the Demon Lord was to blame, so I intercepted his summoning of this human.
Okay, never mind.
You! So I wasn't the only one who felt the change in the air.
Diana stared at the man kneeling beside me as I kept my eyes up at her. As she turned her gaze back to me, I gulped silently. What was she going to do with me? This all felt wrong. I was about to get married. I was about to live my happily ever after with the man I loved. Now I was in a place I didn't know with Diana and a bunch of other creatures I didn't recognize. My instinct was to... I don't think any of the three are a good idea. I'm just gonna stay still. I couldn't move. My mind was empty of emotions except for fear. How was this happening? Where was I? How was Diana here? Diana stared down at me before sighing and kneeling down to my level. As she settled onto her knees, I leaned away from her, unsure what she'd do. Was she going to kiss me again and take my energy? Knowing her, maybe.
Can you tell me what happened?
I didn't want to speak. I felt no courage to. My mind was so wrapped around this chaos that I felt nothing but fear and anxiousness. This couldn't have been happening. I was dreaming.
Is she okay? I don't think so.
This is a waste of our time. Just kill her or
But
something.
I didn't do anything.
Yes, because that's a smart thing to do. Kill someone who is clearly traumatized and has done nothing to deserve death. Brilliant idea. Bravo.
Diana continued to stare at me, waiting for me to answer. Why? She didn't cast a spell on me, nor did she attack me. She continued to wait and stare. Slowly, my mind began to sink into the situation. Diana was willing to listen. Was she willing to help? Was there another question? That was another question, but first I had to answer her. My voice didn't want to answer still, so I forced myself to nod, wanting to answer her somehow. Diana smiled softly, which conflicted with my memories of her. She never smiled like that, yet she was now. Diana held out her hand, ushering me to take it.
Can you stand?
I nodded again and took her hand, standing up at last. I looked around at the other beings in the room. They all kept their gaze to me, unsure what I would do or say. Diana, however, led the conversation.
First, can you tell me what happened to you?
I took a breath, recounting everything that had happened. I was about to go into the church to be married, and then... I was attacked by this darkness. A couple of hands grabbed my legs and pulled me into it, and then I fell here.
A shadow summoning?
Diana turned to one of the beings, the lanky male, and glared.
One of yours couldn't have.
On my honor, it wasn't any of mine. We have nothing to gain from kidnapping a human, nor do we know who this woman is anyhow.
My lady, if I may, I clearly remember hearing imp demons in the void along with her. It must have been the Demon Lord's henchmen.
I like his tattoos. Well, they're not tattoos, they're like markings, but still pretty.
Those damnable creatures. That explains it.
Diana crossed her arms and looked to me again.
Well, dear, it seems that you were to be either a new harem girl for the Demon Lord to ravish, or bait for the boys to return to their father's side. Either way, I doubt you would have lived long had the Demon Lord gotten his hands on you.
A violent shiver ran up my spine. Was it true? I would have died? There. Let me fix this. There we go.
Wait a minute. This girl knows about the Demon Lord's heirs?
Yes. Hilariously enough, she was set to marry one of them.
That's not
as you can see
hilarious.
from her garb.
As Diana motioned towards my dress, I realized how vulnerable I was and felt extremely self-conscious. I wrapped my arms around myself as Diana let out a sigh.
Well, since you do not belong here, the obvious thing to do is to send you home.
I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed at Diana. Was she really going to send me home? Really? I couldn't believe my ears. You will really send me back?
Of course. It should be easy to do once everything is in order. It'll be like you never left the human world.
Wait, like I never left the human world? What do you mean by left the human world? Diana stared before chuckling softly and gesturing to the room and beings within it.
Dear, do you not realize where you are? You are in the demon world.
I figured that much. My mind went blank. It couldn't be. I couldn't be in the demon world. No way! No way in hell! I felt myself back up against the wall behind me, suddenly afraid. I was in another world? How? That was impossible! Diana stepped towards me, both of her hands softly trying to show she meant no harm as she positioned them in front of her body.
Do not panic. We will send you back now, so there's nothing to worry about.
How will you power the spell? Bringing someone here is no easy task, but sending someone back consumes much more energy.
I'll use what energy I have now and rest. We can organize the siege another time when I fully recover. It's not like the Demon Lord can escape the corner we've trapped him in, so we do have some time to spare.
You'd waste time and energy on this human. We must strike now while the Demon Lord is weakened.
But the human doesn't belong here. She needs to go home.
Thank you, sprite thing.
Shall I prepare the return spell?
Do. I grant you permission to use my energy to power the spell.
With a nod, the lanky man held out his hand towards the wall. I looked over in the direction it was aimed at. Diana's shadow? I watched as Diana's shadow simply stood against the wall, mirroring the movements of the real succubus in the room. Before my eyes, the shadow began to morph and expand into a wall of its own. I looked back to see Diana, to see her wrapping her arms around herself and curling her shoulders over, as if she was in pain. Her nails embedded themselves into her forearms, and I could barely make out a painful hiss escaping her clenched teeth. Was the spell hurting her that badly? I turned back to the wall to see Diana's shadow shaking and vibrating as if it was resisting the change the man was forcing on it.
You will obey my command. Open the gates to the void, and allow passage to the world we seek.
Transitum per renan peto tranibris. Ubi aperiut. Ianoium. Decidir.
Upon Diana's final word, her shadow burst and expanded into an oval-shaped doorway. I stared wide-eyed at the passage before her hand placed itself on my shoulder, forcing me to look over. The one with the spear gently pressed my shoulder forward and looked down at me with an almost stern face.
You must leave now. The faster you leave, the quicker we can close the void.
Go! Go! Go get married!
I quickly ran and lifted the bottom of my dress, stepping forward to make a run for the passageway. However, before I bolted toward my freedom, a snarl echoed through the room.
How dare you interfere with my summoning!
Shoot! Oh no! At the very moment, Diana began to scream, arcing her spine and throwing her head back. Around her body were red-tinted bolts of lightning flashing and shocking her form.
No! Human! Use the passage! Now!
But she'll die! He didn't have to tell me twice. I bolted towards the portal, diving forward as I neared it, but I was forced back by a burst of energy and a flash of red light. I fell to the floor, almost slamming my head onto the stone.
The human will never, ever leave this world alive!
No!
You spineless worm!
Close the portal! The Demon Lord might get through!
But the human...
Close it!
As commanded, the man pulled his hand back, visually forcing his arm back behind his body, and Diana's shadow quickly began to morph back into a simple shadow. The electricity around Diana faded away, and she began to tip forward. The man with the spear dropped his weapon and caught Diana in his arms, cradling her to his body as she panted and gasped for air.
I don't sense the Demon Lord anywhere.
The worm has to scurry through the shadows to try and fight back. He'll be dead soon enough.
How is she, guard?
Diana seemed to be uninjured, but her body was twitching from the aftermath of the magical attack. Her visible eye was shutting tight as she dug her fingers into the guard's jacket to cling to him. As her eye opened, I saw not a blood ruby red color, but I saw a cold and unfriendly golden color painted over her iris. Her mouth opened as she panted for air, and I could see her hunger in her facial expression. But she continued to stare at the wall, not wanting to make eye contact with anybody.
There are no physical wounds, but she's been weakened. I must give her my energy so she can recover.
I think that is her guard guy, but... Alright, you guys go do your thing. The man swiftly moved and hooked an arm underneath Diana's knees, lifting her up bridal style as she clung to his jacket, shivering. The spear that had fallen to the floor faded into black and purple mist as he quickly left the room with her in his arms. Yeah. My mind, however, began to panic. I couldn't go home? How was I being forced to stay? Damn the Demon Lord, this wasn't right!
There's an imp in the castle. That is the only way the Demon Lord could have been able to interfere.
You! Guards by the door! Hunt it down!
A pair of guards that were apparently by the door saluted the one commanding them and ran off. I felt out of place, alone, terrified as to what was going to happen. The Demon Lord wanted me here, and his words pounded at my mind. How was I going to get home? Would I ever be able to go home?
Hey.
I looked up to see the winged person hovering near me before they moved and sat on their knees on the stone ground beside me.
We'll get you home, okay? Diana just needs a little rest, okay?
She needs more than rest. She needs to use a different spell to send her back. The Demon Lord will expect her to use the shadow spell again.
How about the normal way? I'm sure we can connect to a witch, or even the warlock she used before, to reopen a portal to the human world.
The warlock she used to get to the human world died, remember? And he was the most powerful warlock in the human world, practically a god himself. What other human could be used to open a portal without another human dying?
It was merely a suggestion. The faster we get this human home, the faster we can move on and finish off the Demon Lord.
Well, what are we going to do with the human now?
We can give her a room to rest in. Humans need sleep after all. Maybe by the time she wakes up, we'll think of a solution.
Come.
The one with rabbit ears looked down at me and lowered her hand to me, inviting me to take it. She had a kind but concerned expression on her face, so I trusted her. I slowly took her hand and began to stand up as the fairy figure brushed off the small patches of dust that had accumulated on my dress. I couldn't do anything. I was forced to listen to the beings around me because there was nothing else I could do. Without them, I couldn't go home. My heart ached, but I had to accept my predicament.
Here, I'll bring you to the open ambassador's room. You are free to rest there for now.
Okay, where about Diana? The floating person giggled softly as the one with rabbit ears cleared her throat.
She'll be fine. She's being taken care of right now.
Yup.
Why not just say she's getting
No!
And the brute strikes again with the lack of tasteful filtering between his brain and his mouth. You still have yet to prove me wrong about my expectations of you.
Keep testing me, assassin. I'm not afraid to rip your spine out of your body and use it as a back scratcher.
You can very well try, brute.
Huh.
Ugh! Would you both knock it off?
Come, everything will be taken care of.
Before I could protest, the woman held me out of the room and into the hall. I kept my eyes down, trying to take in more of the situation I was in. I was trapped in the demon world, and Diana was out of commission. The Demon Lord had plans for me, but what exactly was he aiming for? Trying to lure his sons back? I guess he wants revenge, or he wants their powers, or both. I could have been bait. I could have been revenge. I didn't know, nor could I figure it out now. At least I was safe. At least, I hoped I was safe. The woman led me to a room that practically screamed medieval fantasy. Everything was clean, but it still had that old age feel, as if no one had ever stepped foot into the room until that moment.
Rest here for now. When Diana is well again, we can discuss what to do.
Thank you. I nodded to the woman before she gently curtsied and left, closing the door behind her. I took a moment to observe my surroundings, interested in understanding the aesthetic. Bleh. This was fantasy turned into reality. It was like I had gone back in time. Why, though? Was the demon world really that behind in times, or did magic supersede technology, and this was the result? Despite the situation I was in, which was beyond heartbreaking and terrible, my curiosity began to fester in my mind, as if I was given a golden opportunity to learn something new. However, my thoughts began to drift, and I felt myself becoming weak and dizzy, no doubt from the shock and trauma I had gone through. I stumbled towards the bed, needing to sit down and let everything settle in without passing it. As my rear hit the mattress, I, however, let out a small, pleasured sigh. Holy crap, this is a comfy mattress! I felt myself fall back and my entire body simply melted into the softness beneath my body. It was like I was sleeping on a cloud. Tempur-Pedic. Was that even possible? Demon magic may have been something to do with it, but I was certain that I was drifting into an almost blissful sleep just by lying on the blankets and mattress. Not caring that I was still in my dress, I closed my eyes and drifted to sleep. I needed to rest, since Diana wouldn't be available for a while now. Darkness surrounded my mind, my dreams remaining silent and hushed in the cool and calm black. No nightmares appeared and no sounds were made. I was simply resting, and that was all my body needed. I let my thoughts wander in my subconscious, thinking about what was going to happen now. What will the boys do when they realize I'm gone? What will he do? I imagined him finding a way through the demon world and pulling me back to where I belonged, wrapping me in his arms and swearing never to let me go. I would be relieved, and we would be married just as we planned. How unrealistic was that? I had to be realistic right now. I was stuck, and the only one who seemed to be able to send me back was Diana and her companions, whoever they were. I had to trust them, whether I liked it or not. Eventually, I did rise from my sleep, somehow fully refreshed and calm. How could that have been?
Did you have a good rest?
Ah! I turned my head to see Diana at the door, arms crossed and leaning against the door's archway. She had a look of concern and pure curiosity in her face as she awaited my answer. Are you okay? Diana stared at me, slightly shocked. Did she not expect me to ask?
Huh. Well, yes, I'm fine now that I've had proper rest.
That's good. Diana shook her head and stepped into the room, closing the door behind her.
So we need to find another way to get you back to the human world. It won't be easy, but I believe it can be done by tonight, at the latest.
Tonight? Really? Diana nodded and crossed her arms again, leaning on one hip.
It will take time to get our shadow agents to gather the necessary supplies, but they are not hard to obtain, being that we're in a position of power. You must be lucky.
What do you mean? Whoa, what is that? Diana sighed before casting a short spell under her breath. In front of me appeared a floating map, almost like a hologram. It showed an entire world with mountains, plains, and forests, and it was all surrounded by sea and water. What should I see? Dang. Diana pointed at a marker that had a purple banner at its tip. It was marked at the center of some mountain and forest area. It was also at the center of the map, but I can't see it because this thing is in the way. I'm gonna say it's right here.
That is where we are currently, the center of the Abyssal Plains.
Diana then ran her finger in a circle around the marker, showing a perimeter around it.
Everything we need for the spell is within this area. It will just take time to gather the materials and prepare it.
I nodded, understanding the situation. I was going to hopefully be able to go home tonight, which is better than not going home at all. So, what should I do until then?
My suggestion? Stay in this room. I can mark this room as off limits so that no demon may enter that would confuse you for an intruder and kill you.
I gulped. I did not want to die. As Diana made the magical map disappear, she shrugged.
However, I cannot stop you from whatever you wish to do. Just don't leave the castle.
Okay. I'm gonna leave the castle now. I nodded as she turned to leave. As she stepped out, Diana looked back to me with a reassuring look.
We'll get you back to the human world. I promise you that.
Finally, she left me alone in the room. I let out a small sigh and looked up at the ceiling. I had to wait until tonight to actually do anything. What was I going to do? Part of me agreed that Diana's suggestion, wanting to stay in the room and be safe in case the guards didn't know who I was and would kill me on sight. Why do I keep doing that? My curiosity, however, wouldn't leave me alone, and I wanted to explore the castle. I was handed an opportunity to explore a castle in the demon world, and part of me did not want it to go to waste. I was torn on what to do. Explore. There was no way I was letting this chance pass me by. I stood and walked around towards the door, opening it a crack and looking around. There was no one in the hall, but there were 2 directions to go. Which way? Dang, this is gonna be more choices than last time. Left. I went with left. I closed the door behind me as I exited my room and began to make my way down the left corridor. Everything was definitely medieval style, and I felt a bit small in the hall. It was like I was in a fairy tale, walking around in a wedding dress. It felt almost dreamlike. The passage seemed long, decorating the walls with the wall candles, paintings, and random curtains and flowers. It was mystical to see, and I smiled. As I approached another fork in the hall, however, I sighed. Really, how does anyone find their way around? I looked back, knowing I hadn't walked far from my room. I could turn back. Yet. I'm gonna head. Man, I don't even know where I'm going. I'm gonna go right now. I was heading left, so I decided to go the opposite direction this time. I turned right and headed down the hall, greeted by more fantastical decor. The hall became longer and longer as I continued to walk. However, I suddenly stopped at the sound of a shout.
Beware my evil reign and bow to your new overlord!
Okay. What the? I turned towards where the shout was erupting from and saw a door ajar. As I peeked into the room the door led into, I stared at what I saw. Is it the little fairy creature pretending to be an overlord? A floating creature was standing over top of the table that held a map and miniature pieces, as if someone had set up a strategy board game. The creature was planted on top of a red marker, as if the marker was their mount.
I will rule the entire world, and no one can stop me, because I am the Demon Lord!
As it switched to a different personality, the creature quickly jumped and floated over to a purple marker, striking an exaggeratedly sexy pose.
Oh no! I will stop you with my massive boobies and butt powers!
Oh my god, so
I will
cute!
rule this world, not you! And everyone will love me!
That is adorable. I watched as the creature bounced back and forth between pretending to be the demon world and Diana, lost and intrigued as to how small and quickly they were.
Your
Oh
boobies cannot scare
gosh.
me, for I have a penis, and penises ward off fear!
Wow!
You may have a penis, but I have an army that practically worships my overly curvy and ridiculously perfect body. Oh!
I am so glad I went in this direction. I stifled a laugh. This was actually rather amusing to watch, seeing the creature imitate the Demon Lord and their own leader.
Then come here, And I will show you the true power of a demon lord. Soldiers, attack!
I stared as the creature suddenly formed multiple little miniature soldiers on opposite sides of the table, using magic to mark them, make them clash and smack against each other, as if an invisible child was playing with them. There were even some small squeaky stuffed animals and glass figures smacking and crashing together. It was a chaotic little show. I want to see a CG of this.
Oh no! We're being overrun!
Do not hold back! We'll beat him!
Ah! Ah! The pain! Why? I see it! I see the light! Ah!
I couldn't stop the laughter from erupting from my stomach. I began to guffaw, amused by the little show I was witnessing.
Ah!
Aw, don't stop on my account. The creature in surprise poofed into a cloud of smoke before appearing and falling back over the side of the table in its regular size, or at least what I assumed to be the regular size. Whoa, I'm sorry, are you okay?
Yep, I'm okay.
The creature managed to hop up and start floating again behind the table, giving me a thumbs up as if nothing was wrong. Their clothes were a bit disheveled, but they gave me a toothy grin.
Hiya!
Hi, sorry for disturbing your, strategy game?
Huh? Oh, my game! It's okay. I was just getting to the good part.
The good part? The creature nodded before leaning over to the table and rearranging all the figurines that still remained.
Yeah! When Diana kills the Demon Lord and takes over the world!
Oh! The way they put it made it seem like Diana was going to be an overlord. Was she really trying to take over the world? The creature looked at me and chuckled.
Oh, you don't know what's happening, huh? Well, we're all fighting the Demon Lord, and by we, I mean me and Diana and the others. But anyway, we're fighting the Demon Lord because he's a tyrant and we don't like tyrants, so we're gonna kill him and take over.
They made it seem so simple and so joyous. You guys are really gonna kill him and take over?
Huh? Duh! The Demon Lord is completely crazy! He's burnt down so many villages and destroyed so many forests! He's only causing us harm! That's why we have to stop him!
Oops. The creature that then pulled the purple marker next to the red marker, glaring at both.
We have to kill him before he hurts anyone else!
With a flick of the wrist, they used the purple marker and knocked the red one over violently, making it skid across the table towards the edge. Just from the look on their face, they seemed peeved about the Demon Lord. I would too. Hell, I already was. You all win. You all will win. The creature looked up at me before letting go of the marker and placing their hands behind their head with a grin.
You think so?
I nodded with a reassuring smile. They seemed confident enough to battle the Demon Lord, and it was for the best, then. If it was for the best, it had to be done. The creature nodded back to me before yawning.
So, you're getting married, huh? You're getting hitched!
Huh? I stared at them, unsure of, I want this little thing to be at my wedding, okay? You're adorable. Sorry, I didn't mean to call it a thing. There's probably like a little sprite thing. I stared at them, unsure of where the change in topic came from. The creature laughed a bit.
Don't tell me you forgot!
Oh no, that's not it. It's just, where did this come from?
Well, you are heading home tonight. This is my only chance to ask why.
Why what?
Why get married? I mean, I know humans are different when it comes to marriage or whatever, but marriage is still a commitment, right? That's not different from demon marriage, but it's different and stuff and yeah! Why get married?
I stared at the creature, unsure what they were getting at. Yes, marriage was a commitment, but it was something I was willing to do, especially with Damien. I placed my hand over my heart, feeling it pulse loudly as for the man I loved, and smiled. Because I love him.
You love him?
Yes, I do. The creature stared at me as if I had 3 heads. Was what I said wrong? No, it couldn't have been because it was true, and yet the creature continued to stare at me oddly. What?
Huh? Oh, nothing. It's just weird.
What's weird?
Love. It's just weird, okay? But if it works for you, that works, I guess. It's not like I'm the one getting married.
I stared at the creature, unsure of what they meant. However, before I could question them, they yawned and stretched out.
Alright, I'm gonna steal some snacks. You should head back to your room or whatever so that Diana doesn't catch you snooping around. She doesn't like snooping. Or was it swooping?
The creature shrugged as I nodded. It was probably for the best that I returned to my room. I knew my way back, so I left the room and returned to my room. I remained in my room until the night came. I was given food which looked like soup. The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that the food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple of days away. Being that I was only staying the day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? Just eat it. You're like, I'm a picky eater, but you know what? If you don't have any food in your system and there's a battle going on, if you don't have any energy, we're gonna plummet and lose our loved one, and we don't want that. I gulped. I had to try it. I had to eat it. I hadn't eaten in 2 days, even before I came to the demon world. I was pretty certain Diana wouldn't poison me now, and I was fairly sure that she wouldn't serve me anything disgusting. Yeah, especially that when we had that, what's it called? The fruit, demon fruit, that was delicious. I lifted the spoon that was sitting in the broth, letting it capture some of the stew as it rose. I mean, it wasn't terribly scary to look at. I gulped and slowly brought the spoon to my lips, feeling the heat emanate from the stew. A knock rapped on my door, breaking me out of my train of thought. Huh? Come in! The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate holding things I recognized, bread and cheese. I let out a heavy sigh of relief before Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
Oh, okay then. Instantly, I moved the bowl to the nearby table, thankful I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring me that what was on it was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating, surprisingly, was delicious. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and formed a small goblet in her hand, filled with clear liquid that I assumed to be water. I took it and drank it down, feeling my thirst quenched before I let out a sigh. I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating, then we'll head for the ritual.
How long have I been recording for? An hour and 23 minutes? Oh, this is gonna be a long thing. It's gonna be... Alright. I didn't even realize! That's crazy! We should be almost there to the end, right? We should. I looked up at Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for? Was it possible to go home now? As if she read my mind, she smiled and nodded.
We finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
I couldn't continue eating. My mind went into an obsessive frenzy of wanting to go home. I stood up, moving the plate and goblet to the nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to go home, and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and heading for the door, opening it for me and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind her, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home. I never got to learn any of their names, though. Kinda sucky. Diana led them down the corridors of the war room where I had originally arrived to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I had to only assume it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked to the table and took note of what she saw, nodding.
This should work.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
The spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
Yes. She didn't have to ask. I'm ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath.
O tenebris portas, apriat nobis, largiatur exidium, desiderium.
As she spoke, the table began to glow as she did. A dark purple aura began to surround her form as she lifted and arched her head back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse at her eyes made me gasp. Warm golden orbs covered her blood-red irises, glowing with magic. She was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The item in the table began to gleam wildly, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to weave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demons stepped back as Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her fingers pointed into the air, leading the lights to follow where it directed obediently. She drew a large circle in the air, and the lights followed like a perfect trail, spreading out and forming a large void in the air. As they finally stopped moving, they burst into a bright light, causing the demons and I to cover our eyes from it. It engulfed the room, but died down just as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Diana quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before pulling the tear apart, revealing my bedroom! Diana continued to pull the tear open, giving enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through! This is your chance!
I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress and rushed forward, using momentum to jump into the air and forward towards the void. I could almost reach it. I could feel the air conditioning in the room right at my fingertips.
She will never leave this world alive!
The Demon Lord's voice rang through the air just as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and force, forcing me and Diana back from the opening. I felt my body fly backwards and slam into the wall before I landed on the stone ground. I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lightning, zipping itself closed and vanishing into thin air. No, this could not be!
Damn it!
That should have worked! How could it have failed?
We must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No, I verified everything
it's
myself.
Me. I'm cursed.
Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell?
I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Are you alright, Isaiah?
I'm fine. It is...
I was too lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close. I felt the other side. I had almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Diana's grunt of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her, and I watched her slowly push herself off the ground and glare at the table.
The Demon Lord must have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done?
Now, the Demon Lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
A curse.
Yep, I'm cursed. I looked at the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demons stared at me as well, and I suddenly felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane.
This sucks.
In order to leave, she'd have to die.
What? My mind went blank. Did the Demon Lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse?
That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
But dark magic like that requires...
He used the energy of one of his... Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that because I saw a little bit of a spoiler, so I won't say anything until we get to that part. Route.
Blood of 1,000 demons.
Oh.
He must have
Never
sacrificed
mind.
part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
The Demon Lord is that desperate for her.
The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster, the Demon Lord himself.
Okay, that's my new mission.
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The Demon Lord killed 1,000 demons just to trap me here. Why? Why? I slammed my fist into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home! Sorry, I can't scream right now. Why? And I'm getting, upset right now. I could feel a sympathy and anger in the room, but I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. It's late, so I'm not gonna scream, but yeah, scream. As my voice ripped through the air, a bright light erupted through the room once again. Everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get her on her knees and covered me with her body. She held me tightly as the light invaded the space and slowly began to fade. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned his beard and pointed at the tear, glaring at it and gritting his teeth.
Something's coming!
In reply, Diana summoned what looked like a saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves! It could be the Demon Lord!
The other demons in the room readied themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air change, becoming heavier as the tear began to grow. The energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room that much more tense. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the Demon Lord? No, it's probably Damien. His minions? My mind began to cycle through fearful ideas of what was going to appear. Oh, I guess it's everybody. Oh my god. Thank you, bye, please. Thank you for coming to come get me. My heart almost stopped. Falling through the tear and landing on the table were 5 Incubi Brothers. They were piled on top of one another, having come through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell to one side, toppling off the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of Incubi, confused and surprised. As the tear in the air closed, the ogre man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell?
Who are they?
Careful! They could be the Demon Lord's men!
No! The rebels looked to me as I stood up, Diana falling and still protecting me, and I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from having fallen twice in rapid succession. I almost couldn't believe it. There they were, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I had first met them. They had all been on the floor in my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they were in front of me in the demon world. I know them. Guys! Whoa. I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to rescue me. He came to rescue me. My heart became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was going to go home. The question was, how?
That
That's enough for you, human!
Malik?
Oh, you gonna cry?
Shut up, Alex!
Suck it up! Yeah! See you in the full game.
I hate you! I'm glad you're dead. We finally get to see the intro! I hope. Or not? Darn it! So close! I thought I fixed the problem. My computer's like, nope. It's okay, we don't need to see the video. I should have put it on high. Yay! Thank you for playing the demo of Seduce Me to the Demon War. We hope you enjoyed the experience. Please know that everything, story, art, music, etc. is subject to change as full production goes on. We merely wish to show you a product sample demo of what we have in mind for the full game. If you liked it, please consider donating to our Kickstarter and sharing it around so that we can successfully fund its full production. We have a lot in store, and we have a lot of things planned that we can possibly add, such as a male protagonist, another romantic route with Diana, and even a second game. We thank you for playing, the Seduce Me team. Well, if that isn't enough incentive to go spread the word or donate a couple bucks to this project, then I don't know what is. Anyways, I will be going around to doing the other routes too, but since this is an hour and a half already, I'm just going to leave you with this as Damien's quote-unquote route. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video, and I guess all I have to say is I'm excited for what's to come. Bye!